follow-up results from the Altitude trial.
So what I'm supposed to do here?
Escape. Click on escape.
Doesn't work. I'm not a cardiologist, I don't know what it means. Someone help me so I get my own presentation. Oh. Okay, thank you. So it'll be my pleasure this morning to highlight for the first time the outcome of a trial called Altitude. And I'll start giving you a little information about disclosure. You can read for yourself and enjoy that. The Altitude trial was an investigator-driven trial which was sponsored by the Novartis and was dealing with dual blockade of the renin-angiotensin system, applying a direct renin inhibitor called aliskiren. And this study was carried out in high-risk type 2 diabetic patients who have renal or cardiovascular disease. The study was closed prematurely in December last year due to futility and side effects. And what I'm going to present today is still the preliminary results from our trial because it has not been closed down yet. The primary outcome of the Altitude trial is a composite of cardiovascular and renal endpoint. The composite cardiovascular consists of 5 issues: cardiovascular death, MI, stroke, hospitalization for heart failure, and resuscitated sudden death. So that was the 5 cardiology. Then there's 2 renal, end-stage renal failure, meaning dialysis transplantation or doubling of serum creatinine persistently. The solid line here is the people treated with aliskiren on top of standard treatment, and the dotted line is people receiving placebo. And you can see the hazard ratio here, which is 1.08. So it means that the placebo group is actually doing a little better than the aliskiren group. However, you can also appreciate that the 95% confidence interval is hitting 1, or in other words, it's not statistically significant. For those of you who like details, you can have it all here. If you start at the bottom, it's all-cause mortality, which is, of course, the only one parameter which is easy because you only have to take body bags. You don't have to use an education committee. So you can read the numbers here, and here we have a hazard ratio of 1.07. Again, not significant because it's hitting the 1. One of the issues which was prominent in stopping the trial in December last year was stroke, because stroke was significantly increased when the DSMB recommended us to stop the trial. The numbers are here. We have 3.4% in the aliskiren group, 2.8% in the group receiving placebo. The hazard ratio in disfavor of aliskiren is 1.25, meaning there's a 25% relative increased risk. And again, you will see the confidence interval is hitting the 1, or in other words, it's not statistically significant, but it's a warning sign that we could do harm. It could also be a warning sign that it was a chance finding. We don't know that, but at least that is the number. Some of you probably will be looking at resuscitated death and say, oh, it's very close to be significant. However, the numbers are extremely small, 18 and 8. So that is the main outcome. What about side effects? Because the study was stopped, not only because of futility, but also of side effect. The side effect measured is at the right corner is potassium. If you look at potassium, about 6 millimoles per liter. It was 8.8% in those receiving aliskiren. It was 5.6% in those receiving placebo. So even in patients on monotherapy, there is a very high risk of elevation of potassium in these patients. It's not only due to the dual blockade, even monotherapy gives you that high number. If you look similarly at potassium and serum potassium between 5.5 and 6, you have 21 and 16, again the same trend. The values down here are reported by investigators, and as you know, investigators have different definition of different conditions, but first and foremost, if you look at hyperkalemia, the number is still the same. There are more hyperkalemia reported by the investigators using aliskerin compared to patients on placebo. If we look at hypotension, meaning low blood pressure, it was 12% in the aliskerin group, 8% in the group receiving placebo. Diarrhea, a little more common. We knew that already because we knew that the compound is actually causing loose stools, so there's nothing big surprise. And finally, we also looking at falls. The number of falls was equivalent. However, severe falls, meaning falls who required assistance at the hospital or stopping the treatment, was twice as common, even though it was very few cases, but it was twice as common. So one thing which I would like to refer about potassium, did we have any cases where dialysis was started due to hyperkalemia? The answer is no. No. Did we have any cases where hyperkalemia was the cause of death? The answer is yes. We have one in China where a guy developed acute renal failure. Treatment was not stopped. He went into hospital and the kidney function had ceased, so there was no urine put out anymore, and the potassium was 8, and he died. That's the only one we know of where potassium is actually involved of acute renal failure. So in conclusion then, from Altitude, adding aliskerin on top of standard treatment with ACE and ARBs in high-risk type 2 diabetic patients with kidney and cardiovascular disease is not recommended, and it may even be harmful. Thank you.